welcome back to the SCP show for round 9. We're back down here at Bar 94, our fantastic partners. Make sure you get down here and support them if you're around the Swan Street area. But enough of that, moving on, I am joined by these two guys again. Damon on my right, Mick on my left. How are we, boys?
Very well, thank you, Paige.
Yeah, I'm not too bad.
That's
not too
good.
bad. I
That's
survived the bye round. So
and what did you end up scoring anyway?
I ended up scoring, top scoring in fact. It's surprising, 1,781. So not
Pretty
too bad. I had the full
respectable
18 players playing, so thumbs up to that.
And yourself, Mick?
I didn't do too bad either. I came second place behind Damon over there and got 15-11. But I don't think you did very well, did you, Paige?
I didn't, but we'll not speak about me right now because we're joined by Joyce is back from Sydney. Hi Joyce, how you going?
Yeah, not too bad, although I did crap in SuperCoach. I got 1430 with all 18 players playing, so pretty garbage for me.
And basically, I am, of course, the worst Supercoach of the week. I get the chocolate hat. Don't laugh, I have 13 players playing. I scored 1,107 points. Blew out to a respectable weekly ranking of 155,000. So if anybody out there wants my job, really, I'm taking offers because I've been rubbish this week. Yep. I'll cop that. But moving on, again, we've got the second week of the bye rounds. They don't stop after last week. And this week we've got West Coast, Carlton, the Bulldogs, GWS, Port Adelaide and Hawthorn all missing. It means guys like Shuey, Cox, Natanui, Simpson, Walker, Murphy, Griff, even Liberatore, Ward, Minson, Mumford, he's still out anyway. Heath Shaw's out, Polec's out, Ebert's out, Burgoyne, Birchall, Boak, Wingard. Gee, there's a huge...
the list goes on.
Yeah, it is a lot of players out this week, but you know the upside is we're getting just a bevy of players back this week.
The big premiums, yeah.
All those Collingwood boys, the Gold Coast boys are back, Richmond are back, so we're getting a lot of players back on the park this week. But the thing is, we're going to have a look exactly at how we should be navigating this week because there are going to be some serious outs. So, I mean, the complicated option, again, we're going to go through. Take us through, Mick.
Now, this is I was saying this to you guys before the start of the show. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to say on this show so far because it is that complicated. And I wrote this, so I should understand it.
You probably shouldn't.
So if you're only going to be fielding anywhere between, you should be fielding anywhere between 16 and 18 players this week. If you're not doing that, then you should be looking at trading. Only then. Now, the best option for you to trade to would be, say, a premium that is a dual position player. I'm trying to speak slowly so I can understand this in my head. Now, the example is, let's say you have a Xavier Ellis or a Polec that you want to get rid of in your team. And let's say in the back line, you have almost all your players and you have one on the bench that you want to sub in. Now, if you have, say, a Burgoyne in your midfield already and you trade... No, sorry, don't worry about that. If you trade out Ellis or Polec and you get a premium defender in, say Bartel, into the back line, you then can move Bartel in the same trade into the midfield. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me.
It's about activating the dual position link as we discussed before. You've got to mention,
but simple describe.
Simple sort of thing that the way I look at it is if you've got, say for example, you've got Burgoyne in the centre, and obviously he's got the bye this week, so he's not going to play, and you don't have any bench midfield options that are playing this week, which can cover Burgoyne 0. So in order to cover that, you could trade someone, and say for example in your defence, you've got all of your bench options playing, and you want to make an upgrade to a premium who is a dual position player, who has the mid defence link like Burgoyne. So you can swap a Bartel for Burgoyne's place in the midfield, put Burgoyne into defence, and then put him on your bench for one of your playing bench options there. So it covers Burgoyne 0, and it allows Burgoyne to stay on the bench and use one of those bench players. But that's the way I understand it anyway.
In a mouthful, that is. I hope you got all that.
I think you said it slightly better than me, but I still don't understand it.
But the other option is that you can ride this one out as well. And we always speak about not going to trade crazy, especially during the bye rounds. But burning trades just to avoid donuts is a big no. Considering we're only taking the best 18 scores, so it really doesn't matter if you're not going to have the full 22 playing. It'd be safe to assume that most super coaches are going to have around that 16 odd players at least on the bench. On field this week. So don't fret if you're around that mark as well, because that's going to be about standard this week. Look, unless you're really planning to get guys like Bartel and Selwood and Swan after obviously their bye last week, it's a good option to trade them in this week.
Yeah, and the other thing to note as well is if you are upgrading to someone like Hanley or a Goddard, do remember that the week after they still have their bye to come. So be prepared to have someone to cover them in the next week.
That's it. Moving on now, I think we've got all that under our belts, but having a look this week is the big Q, and there has been a huge amount of talk about Joel Selwood and whether or not we should really be trading him in this week. Now, just to roll you through, he's currently priced at $555,700. He's got an average of 117, but his break-even is 157. Now, I think to start off with, what we really got to look at here in terms of whether or not we bring him in is having a look at the stats, which is going to play a really big part in whether or not we should be trading him in. But Mick, you've been doing some research and you've come up with some pretty good numbers. What can you tell us?
Yeah, hopefully I don't stuff this one up as much as I did the last one. Round 4, he peaked at 665,000, so he's already dropped 110k so far. He is projected to drop another 24k this week. Getting something against him if you're looking at bringing him in this week. He is remembering he's got a break even of 159, as you said just then, Paige. Now let's look at who he's facing this week. Fremantle. Now his average score in 7 games against Fremantle has been 79. Now to put that in perspective, and this is the damning stats, against every other team in the AFL, his lowest average has been 99, and funnily enough, that's been against St Kilda. So if you're going to get Selwood in this week, remember that you might not get the best out of him. You might be better off waiting till next week, banking in, say, a Polec or someone of that sort of price bracket, and getting him in for a lot smaller margin than you would get him in for this week.
And he's also coming up against the Crowley tag as well, so that also comes into consideration. That huge break even, he's going to drop at least, now SuperCoach Gold have predicted he's going to drop at least $40,000 this week, so potentially we could be looking at an upgrade of Polec to Selwood next week for 80 grand or something around that mark, so really cheap. But what's the best option in your mind, Damon?
Yeah, we've pretty much summed it up right there. I mean, when trading in players, you've always, for me, whether or not they're premiums or just rookie players, medium price players, always look at their past history against teams that they're coming up against. And as you said, they're coming up against Freo. Doesn't look quite favourable for him, especially with Crowley there. Definitely, I think there's a chance that he may not tag him. He may go to Stevie J. He has been more potent in the past few weeks, but traditionally he has gone to Selwood, so you probably can expect him to tag him. And that being the case, with that average, the bad average against Freo, you can probably expect him to drop in price. And as you said, about the 24 to 40 grand drop. In that reason alone, I think it's probably best to wait until after this week.
Yeah, that's it. And unless, of course, money really isn't an issue, it won't have to be a problem. But moving on now to bottomed out premiums, there's been a really big talk about this week about a couple of guys. But Joyce, you've been looking at Brendon Goddard. What have you got on him?
Yeah, I have. He's down to 465, 600 and averaging 98. So it's a bit skewed because of his score in round 4, which was only at 11. But since his return in round 7, he's got 122 and then 117. He should, score at least 100 again this week, probably 110 above. You got to keep in mind that he does have the bye in round 10 though, so you'd only be bringing him in for, the 1 score and then having a 0. So maybe hold off. He won't get any cheaper than he is now, but I don't know if you'd want to trade in a premium just to cop another 0, because the next 3 he's got Sydney, the bye, and then Richmond. And I think he'll score quite well against Richmond. He historically does do that pretty well, and his break-even's 41 at the moment. So, I mean, if you can afford to cop the 0, then by all means do it now, but I wouldn't. I'd be holding off.
And another one, Pearce Hanley, he's dropped a fair bit, Damon. What do you think?
Yeah, he has. I've got my eye on him myself, and he's dropped to 433,500, and he's still averaging not too bad numbers, considering he did get injured and he was out for a couple of weeks there, averaging 86, and his break-even at the moment is 105. But you must remember, like Goddard, he's playing this week, of course, but next week he's got the bye. So make sure you have a play. If you are going to get him, make sure you've got a bench option there that's going to be able to cover him. But written down here about Matthew Jensch and miraculous recovery from what was suspected to be a broken rib. So he may line up this week. So that was an option. Another option is Matt Suckling.
Yep.
I'm looking at upgrading him. I think that's about 30, 40 grand. So if you've got that sort of money, that's one option to look at there. But Hanley, definitely one to look out for if you've got coverage for his buy.
Another one that's been, there's been a bit of talk about him as well is Brent Harvey. Now, Mick, you were saying a few interesting bits and pieces about him before.
Yeah, well, he's obviously the mid-forward option, so I won't go through that again. He's got an average of 96, break-even 112, so he probably will go down a little bit in price, but probably not too much. He's dropped 75 grand so far this year, but the good thing is his minimum career average against the next three opponents, the Lions, the Cats and the Eagles, is 95. So if you're looking at a guy who might finish off the season strong, Brent Harvey is probably that guy.
And he's missed his, he's already done his buy anyway,
Yeah,
so that's
exactly,
pretty convenient. But having a look as well to Harry Taylor. Now, defensive option priced at $388,400. He's got an average of 75, a break-even of 96, and his next three games now that he's finished with his round-out bye is Fremantle, North and Sydney. He's serious value after dropping $117,000, and he sort of found form against the Tigers last week with 117. That sort of really mimicked his early season form, but really you have to approach him with caution, I think, this week, because the role he's been playing, it's been quite differing. He's either playing lockdown or he's not really getting that drive out of defence that we know that he's been such a prolific scorer with in terms of Supercoach. So he has returned scores of 32, 77, 62 and 90 over the past month. So they're very low scores and they're quite inconsistent, basically. Yeah. So it is something you'll have to consider, but on value alone in terms of upside, we know that Harry Taylor's probably had a pretty bad patch and we know that he's going to probably come out of it better, but he is someone to consider. But, looking on from that in terms of they're the bottomed out premiums that we've had a look at, but is it time to have a look at upgrading our rookies that have been such great cash earners for us? But Joyce, bit of talk about Jared Polec and whether or not it's a good idea to offload him. What do you think?
Well, he's been a superstar since going to Port Adelaide. He's at 446,800, averaging 97. His break-even's still only 62, so he could go up in price. He does have the bye this week, and then he's got Hawthorn and Melbourne. So you could hold on to him. His break-even, like I said, is low, and he could go up a bit more. But I just think with so many super premiums available in the midfield now, I'm trading him out for Ablett. I finally get Gadd into my team. But you've got, Swan, Pendlebury, Beams, Koch, and Steve Johnson that you can bring in. Selwood if you really wanted to. He's made 275,000, so I think you definitely want to trade him out for one of those, super premiums who had the round 8 bye. That's just my opinion.
What about Joyce? About having people are saying that he should be a keeper and someone to consider for the rest of the season. If we went back to the start of the year and thought that for a lazy 10 or 15 grand we could upgrade Polec to Brendon Goddard, would you have taken that?
I probably would have, and the reason that you wouldn't want to have him as a keeper, although he has done some great work as a rookie pick, is because with your midfielders, you really want those players scoring consistently over, 110 or so. And with Polec, he had massive scores like 140s and that sort of thing, but he does, drop the occasional 60-something every now and then, and that's not good enough from your midfield, even from your 8th position midfielder. So, I'd offload him this week just because he's done a great job and it's his bye week now, so there's no better chance. Spot
on, I rate that. That's exactly my views as well. But Damon, Luke Dunstan, he's been someone that is pretty much on the outer with a lot of sides.
He is, and I traded him out the other week to Blake Acres. I did it, press the trigger quite early for his first game, and Dunstan, he's priced at 315,300. He's still averaging 79, so it's not too shabby that. But his break-even is still quite low at 48, so it is quite manageable, especially this week. Comes up against Gold Coast. But, over the coming weeks, he's probably going to rise at most about $10,000, if that. And then as his break-even starts to rise, it's going to get harder and harder for him to really make more money on that. And I think it's really, he's coming to the end of his tether as a cash cow. And he's got his bye next week as well. So probably next week, is probably the week to upgrade him to probably a Selwood.
That's it. And those round 10 rookies are like gold. You've got to hold them the whole way through if you can. But having a look at Luke McDonald as well. Geez, he's got a high break even this week, hasn't he, Mick?
Yeah, and look, I'm getting all the dual position tags here, and it's just confusing the hell out of me. Luke McDonald is defender mid, which makes him handy to have him in this week. He's at 293,900. So that's more reason to actually keep him, the fact that he's got the defender mid tag, because you can trade somebody else from the midfield and get him into the midfield for a backman. Average of 63, break even of 99. He's probably not going to get that, let's face it. Next three, Brisbane, Geelong and West Coast. He's already had his bye. Probably time to offload him, and you'd be looking at someone, say like a Pearce Hanley, who's pretty much bottomed out by now. So that's probably your best option there. That's
it. And you can also, for a lazy 90 odd grand, you can trade him up to Harry Taylor too if you so wish, if you're a bit strapped for cash.
That's true.
Having a look at Josh Kelly, has the bye this week with the Giants. Yeah, priced at 334,000, average of 76, a break even of 57. And the next three that the Giants have got, they've got the bye this week, followed by Richmond and Hawthorn. So a couple of tough games coming up there. But I wouldn't personally advise trading him this week. I think he's still got a lot more to go. And considering his job security in the side, you really don't need to actually bench him. You can probably play him on field at the moment. He's consistently scoring in the 70s, and that's exactly what you want. While a lot of other rookie types have been sort of scoring, 60s and then hundreds and stuff like that, at least with Kelly you can bank on him probably pushing out a good score. And even though the Giants got completely annihilated last week, he still managed to score in the 70s. So he's a consistent performer. I'd keep him. He's still got plenty more to earn, and he's already made you 120k, and that's going to continue rising. But one of your favourites, Joyce, Matt Crouch, he looks to be someone that could possibly be traded in this week. What do you think?
Yeah, well, he had his bye last week, and he's at 286,900 now, averaging 73, but a break-even of only 36. So his next three are against Collingwood, Carlton and Gold Coast. So reasonable opposition, and the Crows will really be wanting to win those matches. So hopefully he can pump out some big scores. But yeah, I mean, if you've held on to him this much, I would hold on to him for another week, because you could trade in your Selwood if you wanted to after he's played, Fremantle, because Crouch will go up, Selwood will go down, and I think, if you've held on to Crouch for this long, just keep him for another round or two, or at least until the buys are over.
And Nick Robertson as well. You've been having a bit of a chat about him pre-production. What are your thoughts? Yeah,
I have. I haven't got him myself, and I'm glad that I didn't, because last week it was rather unfortunate that he started as the sub, and really did affect his halted his cash cow sort of longevity, and didn't score too well, of course, because of the sub. He's now priced at 247,700. He's averaging 59, and his break even is still quite low at 48. So he is quite tempting to offload for a bit of a quick cash grab. But then again, he's also someone that could stay onto your bench as bench cover for the rest of the season. So something to think about.
That's it. And James Aish, you were sort of speaking about too, Mick.
Yeah, I was. Look, I wanted to get him in ages ago, but I never got on him, and I kind of regret it because he's gone up over 185 grand, which is quite ridiculous. He's averaging 74. He's got a break even of 99 though. So time to trade him out. He's got next three, North Melbourne. He's got the bye straight after that, and then he's got Carlton. So look, if you're looking to trade him out, you've got the options of, say, Brendon Goddard. Obviously, he's the one that everyone's looking at this week. He's killing it. Either way, he pretty much has to go this week.
Yeah, that's it. He's going to start leaking money. But having a look at the bubble boys now, it's all good to talk about these rookies who've pretty much topped out in terms of their ceiling, but it's about the guys that we can bring in to sort of make that cash work with us the other way. Blake Acres, 127,300 this week. Coming into his second game, he's on the bubble. Break even of -75. The next three, he's got Gold Coast, then the bye, and then Collingwood. He had a score of 59 and was subbed out with his debut score, but he scored in the 90s after a really good game on Monday night.
10 possessions, I think.
And it was ridiculous because he was subbed and he could have continued to go much higher than that, given that was only the third quarter. He looks to be firmly entrenched in that St Kilda best 22 at the moment, although they've got a few players sort of in and out of the side. But the way that they're heading, they're playing the youth, and Akers looks a real prospect. So on the bubble this week, he's already the most traded in player this week anyway. But another one now, Joyce, you and I loved this guy last year in the TAC Cup, Billy Hartung. He's made a bit of an impression for the Hawks. What do you think?
Yeah, well, he's priced at 117,300, so he's pretty cheap for a rookie. Averaging only 48 though, and a break even of -26. He's got the bye this week, and then Port Adelaide and GWS, so a hard week and then a bit of an easier one. He got a 70 in his first game, and that was only because Sam Mitchell got injured so early. So he did start as the sub in that game, as well as his second game, where he only finished with a 27. So he's an alright downgrade target. You wouldn't want to have him on the field ever, really, just because he's so likely to be the sub and you're not too sure about his job security. I see Hawthorn rotating a few players through there. So, yeah, I'm not too sure about Billy, but if you've got no better option, then I guess you go to him. But if you've got Akers for only 10 grand more, then why not go to Akers?
Exactly.
And just one thing quickly before we go on to Tweet of the Week. If you're super needing a backline rookie to downgrade to, there is one. Joel Tippett, he's only played 2 games, but he's only averaging about 40. So yeah, if you really need someone to trade down to, that would be the only one.
No drama. Well, there you go. Another one, Kurt Tippett as well. Moving on to Tweet of the Week, and you can send us your tweets using the hashtag SCP Show and have your question answered by us on the panel. But Mick, Hams has asked you, will Andrew Swallow be back this week?
Now, that's a good question for me, because unless the social media coordinator or manager at North Melbourne is lying to us, then yes, he will be back. Simple as that. He will be back. They said at the start of the week he will be named in the team. So boom, there you go.
Fantastic. Someone to keep in mind as a possible downgrade option, I reckon. Now, Damo, KG asked you, Polec, is it time for him to go?
Yes, I'm trading him out this week. Definitely a time to do it during the bye. We spoke about the upgrade to Goddard. You only need about 10, 15 grand to do it. I mean, and as you said, at the start of the season, if you were posed the question to do a straight swap between the two, you do it in a heartbeat, and I think now's the time to do it. A lot of people discussed him as potentially being your last midfield playing spot. You could potentially still keep him, but I think he's too inconsistent for that, so trade him in.
And Joyce, Min7 asked, I know Jench is playing this week, but should we trade Hanley in for him anyway? Need your wisdom. What do you think?
Honestly, I'd keep both, because, I mean, if you want to trade Jench in for Hanley, then, I mean, Hanley's bottomed out in price, so you're not getting value for money there. And Jench was pumping out some big scores before he got injured. So, yeah, I wouldn't be doing either of those. I'd be keeping both of them, and if you were wanting to trade someone out, then get someone else, someone that's, ready to peak in price. I would be looking to trade in Hanley rather than trade him out. So, yeah, keep them both. They're both good players.
All right, and that is basically all we've got time for this week on the SCP show. Thanks again to Bar 94, our partners down here. We will see you next week, and hopefully you do well on the buys this week. I've got a full team of 22. How many have you got?
I've got 19.
Joyce?
I have 21.
And Mick?
21 with a projected score of around 1900.
Well, I've got a projected score of like 1 million, so I'm going to beat all.
Just to make up for
my
last
chocolate
week.
hat next week. We'll see you next week, guys. Enjoy.
See you later.
So, yeah.